Okay, so, you can't really avoid all the talk about information security these days. Seems like every time you turn around, there's a new headline about it, especially when it comes to, like, the government.
Oh, yeah. Definitely a hot topic for sure.
And recently, there was this Ring of Fire video that really caught our eye. It's titled, Trump's Cabinet Can't Shake Signal Leak Scandal. And it digs into a situation that's, kind of startling, to be honest. It's about the potential leaks of sensitive government info, but through some pretty unexpected channels, not what you typically think of.
Right, right. Definitely raises some eyebrows.
Yeah.
So in this deep dive, we're going to kind of dissect what that video lays out, like really get into the nitty-gritty of this whole alleged incident.
Exactly. And we're going to do that by pulling directly from excerpts of the transcript, so we're sticking to the source material here.
Yep. Straight from the horse's mouth, as they say.
So our goal today is, to help you cut through all the noise, all those headlines, and really grasp those core issues that the video brings up. Like, what are the actual dangers of using maybe less secure ways to discuss government stuff, especially when it's sensitive information?
Yeah, good point. It's not always as straightforward as it seems.
Right. And then how does this whole thing connect to that bigger conversation that's always going on about information security and government transparency?
It's a tricky balance for sure. We really want to give you that essential understanding of this complex issue without throwing a bunch of technical jargon at you. Keep it clear and understandable for everyone.
Yeah, make it accessible. I'm all for that.
So the video starts by talking about this report from The Atlantic. What exactly did The Atlantic supposedly find?
Okay, so from what's discussed in the video, The Atlantic, they apparently got firsthand knowledge of planned military raids. And what's really interesting here, the thing that kind of makes you go, is that they suggest this info is accessible through, get this, a Signal group chat. Like the app. Seriously.
Yep, that's what they're saying. And supposedly it had members of Trump's cabinet in it.
Whoa. Okay, that's pretty wild. Like high-ranking officials potentially talking about military operations on a platform that, may not exactly be Fort Knox when it comes to security.
Right. Makes you wonder.
So speaking of security concerns, the video then kind of goes into the immediate reaction to all of this. And there's seemed to be some different opinions floating around about how the journalists who reported on this, about their actions. What were those different viewpoints?
Okay, so one perspective that the video brings up is that maybe, just maybe, the journalists jumped the gun a little bit, like by revealing that they were even part of this group. The idea being that, maybe if they'd waited a bit longer, they could have uncovered even more significant stuff.
Oh, I see. Almost like they were thinking, hold back for now, see if a bigger picture emerges. But then the video also presents this other take on it, suggesting that the journalists speaking up could be seen as kind of a warning, like a red flag. What kind of risk do you think they might have been trying to point out?
Well, the underlying worry there, and this comes up again later in the video, is that maybe, just maybe, there's this kind of casual approach to handling information that could be, really sensitive. By letting people know, hey, I'm in this group, the journalist might have been signaling that, hey, there's a security gap here.
Yeah.
Like someone who's not supposed to be in this conversation, well, they have access.
Yeah, and that's not good.
Definitely not. And that then leads to another big question. What's the responsibility of a journalist in this kind of situation?
Right, because the video mentions this really interesting point about whether the journalist even had a quote-unquote duty to disclose that they were on this list. It's like, what are the ethics involved here? It gets pretty complicated.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's where it gets really tricky, like navigating those murky waters of journalistic ethics. The video is right to point that out because it's not a simple black and white answer.
Totally.
Like on the one hand, you've got that core principle of journalism, right?
Yeah.
Informing the public, keeping things transparent.
Right. The public has a right to know.
Exactly. But then on the other hand, you have to think about the potential fallout. Revealing information too early, even if it's just about being part of a group, could have some unintended consequences, like a ripple effect. Who knows what could happen?
It's a tough call.
It really is.
But it's interesting, the video does mention that the journalist waited until after the military raid was over before saying anything. And they suggest that, that might address some of those ethical concerns about potentially interfering with an active operation.
Yeah, trying to minimize harm, I suppose.
So, while this whole situation might seem kind of new and unique, the video points out that it actually has some similarities to past controversies. Like, they start by talking about that whole Hillary Clinton email thing.
Oh, right.
How does this alleged signal leak compare to that, you think?
Well, the connection they make to the Hillary Clinton email controversy is that both involve using, channels that aren't official for dealing with government stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. Not using those official channels.
Right. And in both cases, the real worry is that sensitive information becomes vulnerable.
Vulnerable to, like, what?
Well, to unauthorized access, mishandling, that sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
especially because it's not being handled through those secure official government
Makes
systems.
sense.
Like if you're going to talk about top secret government business, you probably shouldn't be doing it on, a random coffee shop's Wi-Fi.
Yeah, not the best idea. You'd think they'd have, like, special secure lines for that kind of stuff.
You'd hope so, right?
So the video doesn't just stop at that comparison. They also bring up those classified documents that were found at Mar-a-Lago and in President Biden's possession. What's the common thread there?
The common thread is that there's always this inherent risk when you're dealing with sensitive information and it's not being handled properly.
Yeah, the potential for something bad to happen.
Exactly. Like it doesn't matter if it's discussions happening on some app that's not secure or if it's physical documents just lying around where they shouldn't be. The basic concern is the same. If this information gets into the wrong hands, and by that I mean, foreign adversaries or just anyone who's not authorized to see it, it could be really bad news. Like seriously damaging consequences for U.S. citizens and even for the country's reputation on the world stage.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
And one thing the video points out about those Trump and Biden document cases is that we never really got, like, the full story right. The public was kind of left in the dark about what exactly that information was. How does that compare to this signal leak thing?
Well, the video suggests that the signal incident is, in a way, much more direct. Like the risk is right there in your face.
Oh, how so?
Well, the allegation here is that you've got all these super high-ranking officials, right? Including the head of the DNI.
The Director of National Intelligence?
Yep, that's the one. And even the vice president, all just casually discussing strategy on a platform that was never meant for that kind of super sensitive government communication. It's like sending a postcard with state secrets on it.
Yipes.
Right. And the idea that foreign adversaries could just like waltz in and get access to these conversations in real time, that's a huge risk. It's not something you can just brush aside.
That paints a pretty unsettling picture, to think that a group of, top-level officials might be putting sensitive information at risk like that.
Yeah, it's definitely cause for concern.
So what kind of fallout does the video suggest might come from this type of, slip-up?
Well, one consequence that they highlight right away is that the news organization that reported on all this, The Atlantic, they're probably going to find themselves on the outside looking in from now on.
Like they're going to get shut out.
Pretty much. No more exclusive interviews, no more insider access, that sort of thing. It's like they're being put in a timeout.
Wow. So much for freedom of the press, huh?
It definitely highlights that tension between the government wanting to control information and the media's role, which is, to report on stuff that the public should know about.
A real tug of war.
Yeah, you could say that.
So this brings us right back to those ethical considerations for journalists, right? The video circles back to that discussion about whether the journalists should have just sat on the info, waited for a bigger story to break versus, sounding the alarm when they did. It's got to be a tough decision to make in that moment.
Oh, absolutely. A real tightrope walk.
Like, do you prioritize getting the story, even if it means potentially making things worse? Or do you play it safe and risk missing out on something important?
Right. And you have to factor in the potential consequences of your actions, especially when you're dealing with national security. It's not just about getting clicks or headlines.
No, the stakes are much higher.
Exactly.
But the video does point out that, again, the journalists did wait until after that military operation was wrapped up, which I guess you can argue shows they were trying to be responsible to not mess with something that was already in motion.
Yeah, maybe a way of saying, hey, I'm not trying to cause chaos here, just trying to bring something important to light.
Right.
Doing their due diligence.
Now, there's this other interesting idea that the video brings up about cause and effect.
Yeah.
What's the feeling there about, holding people accountable when this type of thing happens?
Well, the people in the video are pretty clear about this. When you have rules about handling sensitive info and those rules get broken, something needs to happen.
Like, there have to be consequences.
Exactly. They can't just be ignored. And they point out that in those cases with the Trump and Biden documents, at least from their perspective, it seemed like nobody really faced any serious repercussions. Like a slap on the wrist, maybe, but nothing more.
Oh, interesting.
Right. And they contrast that with this Signal incident. They suggest that because you've got government officials directly involved in this type of risky communication, well, maybe that calls for a stronger response. Got to make sure people understand that this stuff is serious and deter them from doing it again.
Yeah, set an example.
Right. Accountability matters.
So let's bring it all together for everyone listening. In this deep dive, we've really explored this whole alleged signal leak scandal, based on what was presented in that Ring of Fire video. And it definitely raises some big, important questions about how secure government communications really are, especially when they're using those non-official channels.
Exactly. It makes you think twice, that's for sure.
And like we've talked about, this isn't just some one-off event. It connects to those concerns that have been popping up for years now about how sensitive information is handled. Whether it's those private email servers or those classified documents that were stored improperly, the underlying issue is the same.
Yep, it's a pattern.
The risk that keeps coming up over and over again is that sensitive information gets out where it shouldn't be. And that could have some real-world, serious consequences, impacting national security, messing with international relations, the whole 9 yards.
It's not something to be taken lightly.
Not at all. So this whole thing really gets you thinking, right? Given that these types of incidents seem to keep happening no matter who's in charge, what are the big changes that need to happen to really protect sensitive government information, especially in this digital age where everything is online and connected?
Right. It's like, how do you balance those principles of transparency and the public's right to know with the need to keep certain things under wraps for national security reasons?
That's the million-dollar question.
It really is. And it's a conversation that we need to keep having.
Absolutely. Because the way information is managed at those highest levels, it has huge implications for all of us. And those implications, they're going to be felt for a long time to come.
No doubt about it.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope it's given you some food for thought.
My pleasure.